Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Atha Saptadasho Adhyaya.
Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to get myself back into it. Sorry, just 1 minute. I just having idea. You can't see that on the screen, can you?
Yeah.
No, not.
Share your screen, Prabhu. Share your screen.
I'm just okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. So I believe Yash and Nitaben, you can start. Yeah.
Arjun Uvacha. Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsarja. Yajante Shraddhanvita.
Mataji.
Tesham
I think
Nishtha Tuka Krishna. Satyamaho Rajastamah.
I guess that's
I
so.
think I'm doing Sanskrit today. I'm not sure.
I was told to prepare for Sanskrit.
Let me just check.
Oh.
Sorry, just let me just check. It doesn't actually say who's. Okay, you know it's supposed to be doing Sanskrit. Yash, is it supposed to be you? Is it?
Yes, but if Mataji wants to do Sanskrit, then that's completely fine.
Is that okay, Yash? Because I know you're very good at Sanskrit.
Yeah. Yes, maybe tomorrow I'll do Sanskrit.
Okay, thank you so much, Yash.
Thank you, Yash.
So, Yash, if you could do translation for chapter verse 1.
Pardon?
If you do translation for verse 1.
Okay. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness and passion or in ignorance?
Text 2, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. Trividha bhavti shraddha dehinam sa swabhavaja satviki rajasi chaiva tamasi cheti tamshanu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this.
Text 3, Sattvanurupa sarvasya shraddha bhavati bharata shraddha mayoyam purusho yo yachad sa eva sa.
O son of Bharata, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired.
Text 4, Yajante satvika devan yakshakankshi rajasa pretan bhutganan channe yajante tamasajana.
Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods, those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits.
Text 5 and 6. Ashastra vihitam ghoram.
Sorry, Mataji. Okay.
Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapyante ye tapojana dambha ankar sanyukta काम राग बलान्विता कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामं चेतस मां चेवान्तः शरीरस्थं tan vidyasur nishchayan.
Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are known to be as demons.
Yash, if you could just say the translation just slightly slowly.
Okay, sorry about that, Prabhu.
Text 7. Aharatu api sarvasya trividho bhavati priya yajnastapastatha danam tesham bhedam imam shanu.
Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, charity, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them.
Text 8. Ayu sattva balarogya sukh priti vivardhana rasya stigna stiraradya ahara satvika priya.
Dear to those in the mode of goodness, increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart.
Text 9. Katva amalavna atyushna tikshna ruksh vidahina ahara rajasya ishta dukha shok kamya prada.
Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease.
Text 10. Yati yamam gatrasam puti paryushitam chayat uchistam apicha amedhyam bhojanam tamas priyam.
Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness.
Aphalakankshebhir yagyo vidhidrashto ye ijjate yashtavyam eviti manah samadhai sa satvika.
Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture as matter of a duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness.
Abhisanthay tu phalam dambhartham api chavyat ijjate bharat shrestha tam yagyam vidhirajasam.
But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion.
Vidhihinam asrashtanam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yagyam tamasam parichakshate.
Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remuneration to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance.
Devaduj guru pragyah pujanam shauchmarjavam brahmacharyam ahimsa cha shariram tap uchyate.
Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence.
Text 15. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam prihitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tap uchyate.
Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
Text 16. Manah prasad saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhav sanshuddhi iti etat tapomanasam uchyate.
And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and the purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind.
Text 17. Shraddhya parya taptam tapastat trividham nare afalakankshi bhiryukte satvikam parichakshate.
This threefold austerity, performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefit, but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness.
Text 18. Satkarman pujartham tapodambhav chayavayat kriyate pradih proktam rajasam chalama dhruvam.
Penance performed out of pride and for sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent.
Text 19. Moodgrahenatmano yat पीडया क्रियते तपः परस्य उत्साद अनर्थम वा तत्तामसम उदारतम.
Penance performed out of foolishness, with self-torture to destroy or injure others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Text 20. दातत्वमिति यत दानम दीयते अनुपकारिणे देशे काले च पात्रे च तत् दानम सात्विकम स्मृतम.
Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness.
Text 21. यत्तु प्रत्युपकारार्थम फलम उद्दिश्य वा पुनः दीयते च परिक्लिष्टम तत्दानम राजसम स्मृतम.
But charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with the desire of fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion.
Text 22. अदेश काले यत दानम अपात्रेभ्यश्च च दीयते असत्ततम अज्ञातम तत् तामसम उदारतम.
And charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Text 23. ओम तत्सत इति निर्देशो ब्रह्मण श्रीविद्ध स्मृत ब्राह्मणास्तेन वेदाश्च यज्ञाश्च विहिता पुरा.
From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme.
Text 24. तस्मात् ओम इति उद्धार्य यज्ञतान तपः क्रिया प्रवतन्ते विधानोक्ता सततम ब्रह्मवादिनाम.
Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with spiritual regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme.
Text 25. तत् इति अनभिसन्धाय फलं यज्ञ तपः क्रिया दान क्रियाश्च विविधा क्रियन्ते मोक्षकांक्षिभिः.
Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement.
Text 26 and 27. सद्भावे साधु भावे च सत इति एतत् प्रयुज्यते प्रशस्ते कर्मणि तथा तत्सत शब्द पाठ युज्यते यज्ञे तपसि दाने च स्थिति सदिति च उच्यते कर्म चैव तदर्थीयं सत इति एव अभिधीयते.
Absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and this is indicated by the word sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Buddha.
Text 28. Ashradhaya hutam dadam tap taptam kratam chayat asat iti uchyate partha na cha tat pretyano iha. Om tat sat iti.
Any,
Oh, sorry.
anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without facing the Supreme, O son of Buddha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next.
Om tat sat iti. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supnishashtu Brahma Vidyayam Yogi Shastre Shri Krishnarjun Samvade Shraddha Taya Vibhag Yogo Namah Saptadasho Adhyaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Anita Ben and Yash. That's so beautifully recited. I'm just going to share the verse that we're going to be talking today, which is Bhagavad Gita 17, chapter 17, verse 22. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So, Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, verse 22. Adesha kale yatanam apetra bhyachadiyate ashad kritam avagyatam tam tamasam udaritam. Translation. Do you normally read out the synonyms? Or do you go straight to translation? Okay, I'll just quickly say the word for word. Adesha, an unpurified place. Kale, an unpurified time. Yat, that which. Dhanam, charity. So I've been cut off here. Petrayabhya, to unworthy persons. Cha, also. Diyate, given. Achadkritam, without respect. Avyagyatam, without proper attention. That. Tamasam, in the mode of darkness. Udaritam, is said to be.
Sorry, Prabhuji, can't see the slide.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, to unworthy persons, or without proper attention and respect, is said to be the mode of ignorance. Purport by His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Contributions for indulgence and intoxication and gambling are not encouraged here. That sort of contribution is in the mode of ignorance. Such charity is not beneficial. Rather, sinful persons are encouraged. Similarly, if a person gives charity to a suitable person without respect and without attention, that sort of charity is also said to be the mode of darkness. So the translation again. The charity performed at an impure place, at an improper time, unworthy persons, without proper attention and respect, is said to be the mode of ignorance. Yeah, just stop sharing for a while. Recite the Mangalacharan prayers. You can recite with me as well if you wish. Om Jnana Timaranasya Jnanan Kana Shalakaya Chakshurmanitam Yena Tajmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shirupa Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishikamitam Shah Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopishwa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kantana Gaurange Raja Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hare Priye Antya Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. So glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. So over the last few days, for this particular chapter, you've been talking about different kind of faiths and performances of yajna, austerity, penance, and charity. And they are covered under the three modes of material nature: Sattva-guna, goodness, Rajaguna, passion, and Tamaguna, ignorance. So when we talk about the word charity, which this verse is about, we often think about money. You know, so many times we've had so many letters come to the post asking for donations, charity for this organization or another organization. And you sort of, out of your kindness, you want to give a charity for these particular purposes. Sometimes we can be very ignorant too. We don't actually find out exactly the cause of these charities, the benefit of these charities as well. So as a wise person, it's our duty to actually find out what the charity or organization is all about. I just did a simple research on the amount of charities there are. And last year alone, 2020, almost 10 billion pound were donated in different types of charity. 10 billion pound, that's a lot of money. And the reason why people give, because they feel they want to give to somebody who requires it, because they may be poor, or perhaps some research investigation into like the Heart Foundation or the Cancer Foundation. But when I did further research, I found that out of all the money for every pound that you give, only about 30% or 40%, up to 40% is actually contributed to the actual worthy cause for their research or for the service of that particular charity. All the rest is either taken up in administration or costs for marketing strategies. So 60% of your money is actually wasted in just the admin and costs of remuneration fees. So it makes you wonder, you know, should I really give my money? And what benefit will I get? You have to remember that for every action that you do, there's going to be a reaction. And just like in the mode of austerity, penance, and charity, there's the mode of goodness, there's the mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And each of them has a consequence in your personal life. So it is important that from the beginning that you want to remove all these fruitive activities as karma kanda in your life to be completely purified, so you can actually completely focus and dedicate yourself to Krishna consciousness. Of course, living in the material world, there's always going to be suffering, adibhotika, adhyatmika, adidevika, you know, suffering caused by your own karma, suffering caused by the calamities of the material world, suffering that's imposed by the demigods like rain, thunder, sun. And these are some of the actions that we all have to go through, regardless of whether you're pure or impure. The devotee, so it's in a pure state of mind, he does not distinguish between happiness or distress, anxiety or fear. He actually sees himself as a supreme person, as a servant, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes when you actually look at charity, it's our duty to actually give to somebody who, for a worthy cause itself. But at the same time, there may be a consequence as well. You may end up giving to a poor person who may be using it for, misusing it for drugs, alcohol, and that karmic reaction actually comes back to us as well. Although you, and your good intention and your good heart that you want to give, charity is actually giving some benefit to somebody else who are less fortunate than yourself. So when you're actually giving something, you have to ensure that you don't get any karmic reaction. It's said that even like the state of government, the king or the queen or the prime minister, they incur 25% of the karma because of bad karma that is created within their nation. So even a leader, if there was some sort of, I suppose, simple reactions that's taken place, like for instance, slaughter of animals, innocent animals, killing of or murder, the government have to pay 25% of that karmic reaction to. Why is that? Because in the laws of mankind, the righteous king in the days of Dharma, they would ensure that there was absolutely no sinful person living in that society. If they were banished from the kingdom, just like King Parikshit Maharaj. He wanted to banish Kali because Kali, out of his ignorance, he was beating up a cow and a bull. He cut off the 3 legs of the bull itself. 4 legs refer to the foundation of Dharma itself. So when we actually look at ourselves, we have to understand what charity can we give. And when we see some of the actions, there was a really good story that I could relate to how karma could affect you in your life. So this is a story where Lord Krishna was a king in Dwarka. He had sons, Vyumna and Samba, they were playing. And when they were playing in this huge open field, they became very thirsty. They came across a well. And in that well, they saw this beautiful, magnificent lizard in there. They couldn't take the lizard out. So they told Krishna, my dear father, look, there's a beautiful lizard in the well. It seems to be stuck in there, but we can't seem to take it out. So Krishna went there. Of course, Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, Aham Sarveshu Buddheshu. So he went there and he understood who the lizard was. And he touched the lizard. The lizard turned into a magnificent demigod. And he introduced himself to the Lord, Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. Of course, he explained that, Krishna, you're the Supreme. You know everything, the past, present, and future. You may know who I am. My name is King Rig. That's spelled N-R-G-A. And King Riga explained that he was a grandson of Manu. Manu is the father of mankind. If you recall in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in one of the verses that the supreme science was such proceed through a chain of cyclic succession. At first, the supreme science to the sun god Vivishwan. And Vivishwan instructed Manu, the father of mankind, was Vivishwan's son. And Manu delivered the supreme science to his son, Ikshvaku, who happens to be the dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra came. And King Riga, Riga was the son of King Ikshvaku. So King Riga explained to King Krishna that many, many thousands of years ago, I gave hundreds and thousands of cows to all the Brahmanas. He actually distributed as many stars as you can see in the sky, as many dust particles you can see in the planet, many raindrops. It was such a royal king, a very pious king, that through his karma kanda, was donating hundreds and thousands of cows to all the Brahmanas. And it so happened, and these cows weren't just ordinary cows, they were special cows. They had gold-plated horns. Each cow were like Sarabi cows that gave abundant milk. They had calves of each, for each calf. For each cow there was a calf. And it so happened that one of the cows wandered off back into the king, sort of the rest of the other cows that the king had kept aside. And then, not knowing this, the king donated another 100,000 cows to another Brahmin. But when the first Brahmin saw that one of his cows was missing and another Brahmin had taken that cow, he had a conflict with his second Brahmin. So they took this case up to King Rig. And King Ring was very, 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 humble and apologetic and said, please forgive me, my dear Brahmanas. Please accept another 100,000 cows for this cow alone out of charity. But the Brahmanas refused. No, we want this cow itself. You promise give to a Brahmana, and if you take that word back from a Brahma, it's worse than death itself. So King Rig was in a very delicate situation. And at that time, when it was his time to come to see Yamaraj, Yamaraj saw that he did so much wonderful pious activity that in his next life, he would live in a life of piety for many thousands of years. But because of his simple reactions or his mistake of conflict with the Brahmanas, Yamaraj had to explain that you would still have to suffer a simple reaction. So what would you prefer? So King Rig said, look, it was my mistake. I would accept the suffering, simple reaction straight away. As a result, he became a lizard in his next life. So it just goes to explain that even though your intentions were good, if there's a cause of conflict later on, it's beyond your control, then as a result, you have to suffer for it. But because this was done in the mood of servitude of the Brahmanas, after all, Krishna says, Namo Namo Brahmanya Devaya, O Brahmanyataya, Jagatitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha, to offer protection to the cows and offer protection to the Brahmanas. That is the duty of Krishna. That's his first duty. And that is also our duty as well, because Krishna is setting an example, and we have to follow that example. So it is our duty as Grihastas, we have to give charity to the Brahmanas and to the cows, coming to the temple, feeding the cows, feeding the Brahmanas. Sometimes when you look at this particular verse, it says that charity given in ignorance, but also you can be very ignorant by taking things as well all the time. We have a selfish nature. Human nature is selfish, but we want to take, but not want to give at all. And some other nice illustrations about Prabhupada, how he was one of the most wonderful person in giving charity to everyone. When you look at the early days of ISKCON, when he started, Srila Prabhupada started in America, it's recorded in the Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. He used to practically make preparations for hundreds of people who used to come to 26 Second Avenue, cook for them, wash all the plates afterwards, wash the floor afterwards. And he didn't do it out of any particular reason for himself. He did it to please Krishna, to please his spiritual master. So these youngsters, they didn't understand the etiquette behind it, but because of their attraction to Srila Prabhupada and their attraction to Prasadam, they became very, very attached to Srila Prabhupada. Another wonderful example of Srila Prabhupada given in charity, there was a story where there was a person by the name of Yash, not a young boy Yash, who recited so nicely. There's another devotee, Yash, who later on became Haridas, and he recalls the story in 1972 when Srila Prabhupada was in India. This particular person, Yash, he was, he came to Mumbai, he wanted to make some money, but unfortunately, he couldn't make any money at all. And he started stealing, started pickpocketing, and he ended up getting caught by the police and got into prison. And in prison, he saw a Back to Garden magazine that was thrown away in a bin. He picked it up and he saw the picture of Srila Prabhupada. And he was very much attracted to that picture. But he wasn't attracted to Srila Prabhupada as such because he had an envious mind. He saw a gold watch around on Prabhupada's head and said, when I get out of prison, I'm going to get that watch. So as time went on, he realized that he had a desire to get that watch from Srila Prabhupada. It was a gold watch. He didn't know what ISKCON was. He didn't know the Hare movement Prabhupada was. So as the story goes, he went to the temple where it had the address of the Back to Godhead magazine. But it so happened it moved to Jew temple. So then he went over to Jew temple, walking over the different distances. Of course, this is all part of his purification that Krishna arranged. And when he went there, Giriraj was overlooking the temple in Juhu at the time. You have to remember it was like a mud hut stand there. They sheltered Radha Rasa Bihari there. And most of the place was like a jungle, and they were just about to build a huge, magnificent temple there. And he wanted to find out where Srila Prabhupada was. But Srila Prabhupada was in Hyderabad. So in the meantime, Giriraj allowed him to stay at the temple, and he shaved up, he took the prasadam, he was given shelter to stay there, but he wanted to meet Prabhupada desperately. So he asked Giriraj, could I have a ticket to go to India, to Hyderabad, to see Prabhupada? Reluctantly, Giriraj said, okay, you can go. And then when he went to Hyderabad, he found out where Srila Prabhupada was. And then he came to Srila Prabhupada, he was giving darshan to everybody. And then Prabhupada called him nearby and said, oh, hello, who are you? And he explained that I was given the name Haridas by Giriraj. I said, oh, it's nice to meet you. And then he explained that, well, Prabhupada, actually, I wanted to come here because I wanted to take your gold watch. Because I saw it in a picture of yours in the BTD magazine. So Prabhupada just casually looked at his watch and said, here, take this watch. And then he said, no, Prabhupada, I don't want to give it. So it just shows you Prabhupada wasn't attached to this gold watch. He was ready to give to this person that he never met in his life before. And then as time progressed, this particular boy went back to Mumbai to carried on with his duty. And so happened Srila Prabhupada went there again. So the story goes on further. That there was an initiation ceremony going on. And then Prabhupada saw that boy again standing in the corner. And he said, oh, what are you doing here? I said, oh, I heard you were here, Srila Prabhupada, so I've come to see you. Are you not taking initiation? As Prabhupada was going to give initiation. I said, no, I'm not, Prabhupada. I said, okay, you get ready. Where's your initiation beads? And Haridas said, I don't have any. So Prabhupada took his own personal bead and gave it to that boy, Haridas. And Giriraj and the other sannyasis said, surely, Prabhupada, you're not going to give him your beads, you're not going to initiate him. Prabhupada says, I know what I'm doing. So this is the mood of Srila Prabhupada, was really to give to others, which others weren't ready to give to him. That shows you that gift of love. And that's charity, being able to give something without wanting anything in return. And there were further stories as well, and just quickly to finish off, that same boy, Haridas, who was a young boy, sometimes he would be given money, and he'd use that money to buy flowers for the deities, but sometimes he would keep some money aside and he'd buy chocolate. And then one day he had his chocolate in his bead bag and he went to offer Dhanavas to Prabhupada. And the chocolate fell out of his bead bag. Prabhupada said, what is this? Prabhupada had a look at it, looked at the wrapper and said, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't be taking this prasad. And besides, is this money not belong to Krishna? Where did he get it from? Prabhupada was very forgiving. He understood the mentality of the boy, and he understood that in due course of time, this boy will become a great devotee. And now he runs a successful business. Also, what had happened, because he was taking this chocolate, Prabhupada said, there's no need to take this chocolate. So Prabhupada cooked him a lovely halava. And then he recalls in his story that, although I've run my own Govinda restaurants now in India, but I've never ever tasted halwa the way Srila Prabhupada has cooked for me. So it shows you, when we see an example by somebody giving something nice to us, we also want to emulate that same mood. When I first came to ISKCON, when I was a young boy, we didn't have any money. I mean, we were like young kids, very poor. But the devotees always welcomed us so nicely. Said, here, come sit down, take prasadam. Let me offer you something. Let me give you this book. Let me give you some bead bags. They wanted to encourage you in your Krishna consciousness. It wasn't like forced. It wasn't like beating us or any way, but it was out of pure love. They taught us how to milk the cows. They taught us how to cook for the devotees. And as a result, we became really attracted to the devotees. And that was surely by their love and mood, appreciation for us. So it just shows you that the importance about charity is not necessarily always given or taken, but it's a reciprocation of love. And that's more valuable than giving money. You can give money very easily, but when you want to find out if charity is cause-worthy or has a worthy cause, then you want to actually volunteer yourself personally, and then you can see the results, the fruitive activities from the charity itself. Unfortunately, within ISKCON as well, because of this love that devotees had for, everybody wanting to come into Krishna consciousness, people also misused it. So the karmis used that basis to actually suppose, become like shaven up their heads themselves and started went devotees and imitating the devotees and going out collecting funds on behalf of ISKCON. And unfortunately, that gave ISKCON a really bad name, and the devotees had to go and investigate these perpetrators and tell them, look, we can't do this because you're doing it not in the name of ISKCON, but doing it for selfish needs. So it's so important that even though you may give money, you've got to see for yourself that there's just money going for worthy cause as well. One of the other things within Srimad Bhagavatam, we read so many wonderful stories where charity is given in so many ways, and that charity is sometimes in the form of a boon as well, where great personalities or personalities perform thousands and thousands of years of tapasya, and from that tapasya, they try and please the demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and as a result, they give in return a boon to them because of their good deeds, their pious deeds, their austerity, their penance. Sometimes those boons that they give causes conflict to the other personalities as well. Like for instance, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, they all misuse those boons to destroy humanity, destroy mankind, to provoke fights with the devas and demigods, and ultimately to actually come down and resolve all these issues. It's Krishna himself, in the form of the different incarnations. It's like Lord Shiva gave a boon to one of his own disciples, the gift that that the disciple decided, look, I'll have a gift that whoever head I touch with my hand, its head would explode. So Lord Shiva, of course, he's very easily pleased. He gave that boon to his disciple, although he was a demonic person. That demonic person said, okay, let me see if this works. So he went to touch Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva ran away, obviously it's a leela to show the supreme personality of Godhead Vishnu as being the most superior person. Lord Shiva had fled to Lord Vishnu to ask for protection. And the demon came and said to Lord Vishnu, I'm looking for Lord Shiva. He gave me this. I want to try this on him to see if it works. Lord Vishnu is so amazing. He's so, how do you call it? Well, he's so playful. He tells this demon, you should listen to Lord Shiva. He's just a bit crazy. He just makes up story. We don't even know if his spoons actually work. Why don't you try it on your own head, see if it works? So this demon put his hand on his head, and of course, the demon fell down and killed himself. So it just shows you sometimes you can give certain things for a certain person, but they may misuse it for the wrong purposes itself. And that's why it's so important when you look at ISKCON itself. We're very, very fortunate because what is ISKCON itself? Although it's a charity, but that charity is based on giving something for the welfare of humanity itself, for the welfare of protecting the cows. So ISKCON and its subsidiary activities continue to, I suppose, give opportunities for everyone to participate in so many ways. Like there's Food for Life around the world. And last year, 2020, I believe they've donated or given out 1 billion plates of prasadam to all the needy people around the world. In India, they do the Food for Life program, the children's school program, lunch program. They do environmental protection as well. They look after all the care for the different sacred rivers, the Ganges, the pollution in the rivers, Vrindavan as well. They're planting so many wonderful trees all over Vrindavan itself. In other ways, they're also developing gurukuls, hospitals, producing devotee cares for those who need it, for the elderly Srila Prabhupada disciples. They're organizing their wonderful TOV project as well. So it's our duty, if we want to make a donation, we should think twice. Would I rather give it to something where they utilize the money for something which I don't really see the benefit? Or would I really give it to something which I could see not only benefiting myself, purify myself, get some bit of punya, but also benefiting all of mankind as well? After all, these, the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and all the scriptures that Srila Prabhupada has kindly presented to us in the form that we can all read around the world in different languages are going to be the law books for the next 10,000 years, which we should take the opportunity and not just taking it just for ourselves, our personal needs, but also the ability to give to other people as well. So there's a wonderful devotee, I believe she was in this group earlier on. Anyway, I won't mention her name, but it's such a wonderful devotee. She's retired, she's 70 years old. But last year we were doing the Mantra campaign where we distributed Srimad Bhagavatam sets, and it so happened that everybody was kindly participating in the campaign by distributing books, Srimad Bhagavatam books, either sponsoring a set or phoning up different devotees or relations, friends, neighbors to sponsor a set itself. This kind lady is 70 years old, retired, and just from her pension money itself, she was actually given in charity so many sponsored Srimad Bhagavatam sets. They're about £225. She must have sponsored about 25 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam to perhaps not necessarily all devotees, but they could be newcomers in Krishna consciousness. And it's like a stepping stone for them. They may not really understand Krishna consciousness. We all had to start from somewhere, from a little step, like chanting Hare Krishna, take a prachadam, to associating with their devotees, reading Srila books, to participating on these kind of Sangha groups as well. So somewhere along the line, we have to start something. So I really encourage all of you, if you want to do charity, which is not just in the mind of goodness, but in pure goodness, the best thing that you can actually do is to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, because distributing Srila Prabhupada's books is actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita himself, there is no devotee more dear to me than one who actually spreads the glories of my name to another devotee. So this is what we want to do. The whole purpose of the Sanghas, we want to glorify Krishna, we want to glorify the devotees. We want to also show appreciation to all the devotees who are participating in these kind of spiritual activities as well. Even when you go to the Holy Dharma itself, sometimes you spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on plane tickets to go to India. When you go to the different holy places, you should also make it a duty to give some donations to the temple, to the sadhus, to the Brishpasis, to some good causes, because it's said that if you do not give any remuneration or donation, then you have a selfish nature, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, they become nothing more than a miser, and all the benefits of coming to the spiritual Goloka Dham has no value at all, because unless you go through a devotee, then you can actually serve Krishna himself directly. So it's very important, just like when we perform yajna, we do not give the remuneration to the devotees or to the priest, and that yajna, that performance, that sacrifice ultimately is for the benefit of Lord Vishnu, not for our own benefit. That's why we recite the mantra like Shina Shima Idam Namama means not for me, for you, Lord Vishnu, for you, Lord Nrsimhadev, or the deity that you're actually the yajna you are performing for. Because although you want to purify yourself, but ultimately the whole benefactor is Krishna himself. But because Krishna sees our sincerity to wanting to serve Krishna, then he says, yes, my devotee is very pleased, very surrendered. Let me serve him as well. So it's very important. We did cows, we did brahmanas, distribute the books, distribute the prachadam. If you do not give charity for that particular reason, then of course we get that reaction like I mentioned about King Riga. So another form of charity is the holy name, given at the distribution of the holy name Sri Sankirtan movement. And that is the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is exactly what this Kali Yuga is for. In the other ages, there was state worship, there was meditation, there was tapasya, and they were very difficult. You could not concentrate for more than 5 minutes nowadays on something, on one focal activity, because our mind is always disturbed with so many activities in our mind. But the purification for Kali Yuga is Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, Hello Evanesti, 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 Katanyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way except for chanting the holy name of the Lord. And that is the prime benediction of this human nature. So in this, during this pandemic, you can see there's so many opportunities that we can actually participate. You may not necessarily want to give money or donations to a worthy cause, but certainly as a volunteer, you can help out different Krishna conscious activities. The Bhaktivedanta Manor, although there's a lockdown, you can participate as a volunteer to help out with the crowd control. You can help out with the distribution of the prasadam, with Parashuram's Food for Life services. You can come and take care of the cows when the temple is open again, whenever there's an opportunity. There's many ways that we can all try and serve Krishna in so many ways. We shouldn't always try and think that, oh, nobody seems to be phoning me up, nobody's serving me. Why should I serve somebody else? But you find that love, care, and affection comes when you actually start serving other people itself. So even if you have prasadam, you may not be able to go and distribute it to everybody, perhaps your neighbors, your family, friends, because that prasadam is pure. When you give prasadam, it's no different from Krishna himself. In fact, it's so pure that Lord Vishnu, when he gave some Mahaprasadam to Narada Muni was so ecstatic, and he shared that Mahaprasadam with Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he became so ecstatic that he started doing a dance, and that dance was almost causing the destruction of the universe. And Parvati Devi had to pacify him. So, Lord Vishnu, what is it? Lord Shiva, what are you doing? And he explained, look, I got some Mahaprasadam from Narada Muni, some Mahaprasadam, Lord Vishnu. Parvati, of course, she was happy, but she was very unhappy too. So, but you didn't share anything with me. So Parvati made a vow that she will ask the Lord to come in this material world so everybody could have this Mahaprasadam. And that Mahaprasadam was in the form of the holy name, the Sri Harinam Sankirtan, which Lord Chaitanya came there as the avatari, as Krishna and Radha combined. So this particular verse, it sort of sums up the verse of human nature in our roles, whether it's charity, whether it's austerity, whether it's penance. But you have to do it for serving Krishna through his devotees. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 26. Save Bhumjam Paro Dharmo Yatso Bhakti Adokshaji Aitaki Pratihata Yayatma Suprashidati. Supreme occupation, dharma, whole humanity, is that by which man can attain to loving, devotional service unto the Transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, completely satisfy the self. So unmotivated and uninterrupted, so not having certain desires for yourself, just like when we discussed earlier on charity, when it's given for the wrong reasons, to the wrong person, it's in the mode of ignorance. And I explained about King Riga when he unfortunately gave away a cow when it went astray and the conflict with the Brahmanas. He had to take that reaction and came back down into the material world as a lizard. So we want to just sacrifice our life, just dedicating our life, giving charity for pleasing Krishna and his devotees. I'll stop there. So if anybody has any questions, please do so. I know how to mute everyone. Perhaps if you want to put your hand up so I know who to mute, just in case. Any questions? No?
Sorry, I came late.
Oh, that's okay. Nice to
because
see you, Leela Purushottam Prabhu.
being slightly under the weather, but it's very enlightening to understand and appreciate the confirmation why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. So that's very encouraging, very enlightening. So hopefully we can make the most of it in this life, you know.
Yes. Thank you so much. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, you know, we've been very fortunate during this pandemic. You know, I was on a call, health and well-being at work, and it was explaining about different tools that they're giving out to the staff at London Underground, how to take care of yourself, maintain yourself, how to overcome stress, if you're having difficulties, if you're having debt. As we know, within Krishna consciousness, there is some sort of treasure that's reassuring to each person. It's the fact that there's always a devotee there to help us. So certainly, if anybody you know of is going through difficulties during this difficult time, please come forward. We're able to help you in some ways, spiritually or in spiritual association in some way or another. It's very important that you don't bottle it all in, because that procrastination could lead you to other sort of unwanted desires in your own turning points in your life as well. Anything else? Any other points anybody would like to say?
Krishna Govinda Prabhu, I had to leave for a while, so forgive me if I missed it.
No, that's okay.
You know, it says here charity in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Yeah.
We know the result of charity in the mode of goodness is always uplifting.
Yeah.
If someone gives charity in the mode of ignorance, what is their benefit? Is there any benefit?
So, sorry, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu, I know you sort of missed some of the talk earlier on. So I was explaining about charity. When it's given in a mode of ignorance, it actually has no value whatsoever at all, because you could, without doing firm research into what that charity is, was explaining about, if you look on the research on the internet, a lot of the charities out there for Heart Foundation, Cancer Foundation, although it be for the better for mankind, improving health well-being, but at the same time, up to 60% of that money is actually utilized in admin costs, remuneration fees, and so forth. So it's a lot of money wasted. So there's a lot of companies out there who are actually cheating people. There was one particular company I sort of researched, they only contribute 3% for the cause of that charity. 97% taken up in fees, remuneration fees, publicity. So when you give something ignorant, you're actually giving it without any particular benefit, and you get karmic reaction for that as well. Because of our nature, human nature, we want to give naturally. Like if you go to India, you may see a poor beggar, you may see a poor fool, but if you give them some prasadam instead, like sort of money, then at least you know that they're going to benefit some way by taking purification, by taking Krishna remnants. But just doing it blindly, it's actually, as Prabhupada said, that even Krishna consciousness, you should actually ask questions. You shouldn't take it blindly. You should try and be inquisitive, you know, be inquisitive to the spiritual master, being inquisitive to the spiritual master can give yourself realized truth. Hope that answers your query.
Yeah, the only doubt I had, I recently read one very interesting article by one of the senior devotees from ISKCON, who's on the Shastrik Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And he wrote a very interesting article on devotees giving charity. And even examples where sometimes Srila Prabhupada gave money to beggars.
Yeah.
And in one sense, you know, there's uncertainty about what they would do with that money. But the main point being made in the article, you know, the devotees should sometimes not discriminate on who they give charity to, because it can make the heart hard. like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You know, sometimes devotees says, oh, they are street children. You know, they are people there. We shouldn't give them money.
Yeah.
But the interesting aspect of this article, and he quoted various evidence from various shastras, where he says if we adopt the attitude that, you know, we too much in discrimination how we give charity, sometimes that makes the heart quite hard also. Maybe I'll share the article with you and others.
Yeah, sure.
And it was very interesting for me to read that article.
Yeah, that's a very good thought. There was a couple of points that I mentioned in the class. That one was I mentioned that when devotees go to India, that sometimes they spend a lot of money on the plane tickets or accommodation. They feel very reluctant to give money when they go to Vrindavan, when you go to the temple. You know, it says that when you go to the temple without giving anything in return, it's actually very selfish, very ignorant. So that's why whenever you go to a temple, even Bhaktivedanta Manna, we're taking darshan of the Lordship. So in favor, we should actually give something in return. But totally, I also mentioned that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that devotees should make a point of contributing some small bakshi to the sadhus, to the Brijvasis as well, because, as you say, it makes the heart softer. But at the same time, if you don't know what that particular person is using that money for, would you rather give that pound to that person or give it to something which another devotee could use it wisely or a beneficial service as well? And I also mentioned about Prabhupada giving his gold watch to somebody who wanted to steal it, but because of his transformation in Krishna consciousness, he did not take it. So his intention was to steal Prabhupada's gold watch when he saw that picture of Prabhupada with the gold watch. But Giriraj Maharaj, your own spiritual master, he was under his care, and this is a really beautiful story as well. I was just reading it, although I've read it many times, but you sometimes wonder, are these stories really true? Because they mentioned Giriraj, then it must be true, because otherwise, Giriraj Maharaj, otherwise it won't be true at all, you know.
Yeah, so sorry I missed part of your class. I had to take a call.
That's okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and please forgive me if I made any mistakes.
Oh no, it's wonderful to have you, Prabhu. You're such a amazing devotee in all respects.
There's one story I forgot to mention. I forgot to put it, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu, if I could just mention it briefly. So last year with Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu and myself, we were going book distribution, and we were going door to door, and I was explaining about charity. Nowadays, giving book distribution is one of the best charity you can give to anybody. But when we're going door to door, a lot of these door signs has a sign there, no cold calling. But we still, as devotees, we still do it. We said, well, what the heck? But it so happened, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu knocked on this door, and this man was very aggressive. He had a dog, and he sort of chased Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu away because I said, look, it's no calling, it's against the law. Why are you doing this? And of course, we felt disheartened, but then we moved away to another place. But I saw Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu, he was still very sincere. He still wanted to carry on because there are obstacles in our life that always happen every day. But we have to take it as a total reminder, about this material world. Are you easy to give up, or is you ready to fight? And that's what Prabhupada was. He was a fighter, and we should take that lesson too. So despite the difficulties, we should try our best to carry on, persevere. Without perseverance, you'll never succeed in life, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Govinda Prabhu. All glories to your service.
All glories to everyone, all glories to you. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.